Welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed a great holiday weekend and the extra day of rest on Monday. This week we're going to be kicking off with Chapter 4, Editing and Combining Shapes and Paths. We are going to learn in this chapter some new tools: a scissor tool, a knife tool, the eraser tool. We're going to learn how to join paths, outline strokes, and create compound paths. And we're going to look at some other shape builder tools. There's literally one called the Shape Builder, and there's another one called the Pathfinder. We're also going to look how we can take a stroke, just a line if you will, and change the width of it in certain places, variable width. So let's get started on Chapter 4. In Illustrator, you're going to want to navigate to your lesson files and open the Lesson 4 Start file. And grab the start file and open that. Once it's opened, we are going to do a file save as, and you're going to be naming this your name and then Happy Camper. So file save as, and again, your name, Happy Camper. And that's going to be in our Lesson 4 folder. Click Save, and in the resulting window, we'll just click OK from there as well. My computer seems to be especially slow. Must know that it's a holiday weekend. All right, we now have our file saved. We are then going to just do, oh boy, this is so slow, preparing to save. Well, while this is going, I'll just talk about what's coming next. The first thing that we're going to do is edit some paths and some shapes. So in Illustrator, you can edit and combine paths and shapes in a variety of ways. Sometimes that may mean starting with simpler paths and shapes and using different methods to produce more complex paths. This could include working with the scissors tool, the knife tool, and the eraser tool. It could mean outlining strokes, joining paths, or even more. We will explore other methods of transforming artwork next week in Lesson 5, but for now, let's work with the scissor tool to start. The first tool that we're going to use to cut and divide shapes is going to be the scissor tool. This is going to split a path at an anchor point or on a line segment to create an open path. So we're going to cut a rectangle with the scissors tool and reshape it to make curtains for our camping trailer. Before we move on, let's just make sure that our smart guides are turned on. So go under View, Smart Guides, and you should see the check mark. And then we're going to choose artboard number 2. So you can do that from the bottom left or from your properties panel. You can choose artboard number 2, and that will bring it to fit into the window if you went that way. If not, do a fit artboard in window. So we're going to take this and we're going to turn it into what we see over here, which is a window in the camper with some curtains. So the first thing we're going to do is take our selection tool and we're going to click on the white shape here in the center. We're going to select that. And then we're going to zoom in, so Command plus on our keyboard a couple of times to get that a little bit closer. With our shape still selected, we're going to come over to our toolbar. I'm going to put mine back into a single toolbar. And we're going to come down to the eraser tool and we're going to click on the flyout menu underneath it. And we're going to see the scissors tool is located there. So we're going to switch to the scissor tool. Notice that that's what we have now. And we're going to bring our cursor over into the window here. And we're going to click when we see the word path. So we're aiming for this area down here, the left of center on this path at the bottom. When we get our cursor on the path, we're going to see the smart guide of the word path show up. And when we see that, we're going to click here to cut it. Notice it put an anchor point right here. And our shape has been expanded. Now what we're going to do is take our direct selection tool, because remember, we're just going to want to move one item, not the whole entire piece. And we're going to move our pointer over this anchor. and we're going to drag it up somewhere in here and then let go. Notice that that did cut our rectangle shape, and because we used the direct selection tool, we were able to take that anchor point and move it up. Also notice that underneath it is probably a rectangle filled with orange, and when we move this up here, we can now see more of that. Whenever you have two open points, but we have a fill on this shape, the original rectangle was filled with white, even though there isn't a line there connecting it anymore, that's where the white fill shape or color will stop. It assumes that this is filled in and stops there. It doesn't bleed out. All right, now from where we originally cut, we're going to come down here and we're going to click on this anchor point, and we're going to pull it up and over and kind of mirror what we did on the other side. And then also notice that we again have that orange filling in there. So move that around a little bit, try to get it to look as good as you think it can so that it's balanced out. And notice how this black stroke doesn't go all the way around. That's because this is now an open path. Starts here and ends over here. We can join paths. So pretend that you drew the shape U, the letter U or a horseshoe, and you wanted to close it off at the top. You could do that by selecting the path, the open path, and using the join command. So when more than one open path is selected, you can join them to create a closed path. You can also join selected endpoints of two separate paths. So if we had two letter U's next to each other and we wanted to connect a line from one to the other, we could do that as well. Let's go back to our regular selection tool and click away from the white path to select it. Now we're going to click back to select it. The reason we did that was in our previous step, only this one anchor point was selected, so we wanted to deselect and then come back with our selection tool and get the entire shape. So we have the bounding box around it. All right, by selecting this whole path, the shape, when we apply the join command, Illustrator is simply going to look for two open ends and combine them. Over in our quick edit in the properties panel or quick actions, we do see the button join, and if we click on that, it automatically drew a line across connecting the two. When you apply the join command to two or more open paths, by default, Illustrator is first going to look for and join paths that have endpoints closest to each other. And then every time you click the join button, it's going to look for the next two that are closest together, and then the next two until everything is finished. So looking at this, I can see that I don't have a perfectly straight line here. It's not a big deal, but if I wanted to fix that with the selection tool, I could just grab this anchor and pull it, oops, I gotta just get this one anchor point and drag it down until we have a straight line. Well, I'm not zoomed in enough to make that perfect. Unfortunately, can't make it perfect. All right, so we have just created some curtains in our camper window. A few things just to clean it up. With our selection tool and this whole shape selected, we're going to take away the stroke. So you can either click over here on the swatch and go to none, or you can down this to 0. That takes away your stroke also. And then in the fill color, we're going to choose a color called purple number 3. So if you hover over, you'll get the tooltip and you can change it to purple number 3. All right, this is the window that we're going to use. So we're going to take our selection tool and we're going to marquee across all of them to select all the pieces, and we're going to group them in the quick actions, click away to deselect them, and we're through with that step of using the scissor tool.